with the union having its new chairperson as his one-year term begins. This year's ordinary session of the African Union Summit is focusing on peace and security in Africa, development of critical sectors such as education, health, transport, communication network, investment and agriculture for the continent to progress. Of critical sectors such as education, health, transport, communication network, investment and agriculture for the continent to progress.
The leaders of the 55 member states of the African Union have gathered to push for the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement that has seen a slow movement in its execution in 2 years.
With African countries struggling with the effects of a pandemic, the war in Ukraine and climate change, has 22 African countries already running in debt, distress, rising cost of living, and loss of jobs and incomes. The Union prioritizes digitalization of trade network in granting funds to de-risk investment as well as adoption of Dhaka II Declaration on food sovereignty and resilience through development of the country food and agriculture delivery to be monitored by the Presidential Delivery Councils in Africa, facing a financial gap of 41 billion a year for adaptation finance, delivering on the goal of 100 billion up to 2025 to address any shortfalls has agreed at COP27. The overall mandate of African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is to generate a single continental market with a population of about 1.3 billion people and combined domestic product of approximately 3.4 trillion in lifting 30 million people out of extreme poverty.
Vice President Hussein Abdelbagi Akol, who represented President Salva Kiir Mayardit, called for equal representation at the African Union Central Leadership for the country to be able now to present its issues.
During his intervention remarks, Vice President Hussein Abdelbagi Akol rejected the plan of expanding African Union leadership positions from 15 to 17, calling on the African Union to support the country's process of peaceful rural disarmament, updating the summit about the resumption of the Rome peace talks.
I'm pleased to inform you that the parties to the agreement have been agreed on a roadmap to enable the completion of remaining provision of the agreement within 24 months. The current national sub-violence is a result of armed civilian and poverty. Thus, there is a need for a comprehensive and compulsory disarmament of civilians across the country, which will be in line with African Union objective of silencing the gun in Africa by 2030.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed called for establishing African Media Center for reporting African stories in a state of being left to Western media, focusing on false information. Reporting for SSBC, I am Mathiang Joseph, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.